It's been a year since Tony Bennett passed away, and now his family is revealing some shocking truths.
And now Tony Bennett's wife is revealing that he is battling Alzheimer's. And she says the American songbook that made him famous.
Behind the charm and timeless music, there were hidden battles and family drama. His daughters have taken their brothers to court, claiming they were kept in the dark about deals involving Tony's music catalog and image rights. The intense disputes over millions of dollars and the painful details of Tony's battle with Alzheimer's are now out in the open. Discover the real story of Tony Bennett's final chapter and the secrets his family has finally shared. Tony Bennett was born on August 3, 1926 in New York City. He was the first member of his family to be born in a hospital, a sign of the new life his immigrant parents sought to build in America. His father, John Benedetto, was a grocer who had emigrated from Podargoni, a rural eastern district of the southern Italian city of Reggio Calabria, in 1906. His mother, Anna Sorazzi Benedetto, was born in the U.S. shortly after her parents emigrated from the Calabria region in 1899. Other relatives followed as part of the mass migration of Italians to America, creating a tight-knit family network. Tony grew up with an older sister, Mary, and an older brother, John Jr. The Benedetto family faced significant hardships, particularly because John Sr. was ailing and unable to work, leading to a life of poverty for the children. Despite these challenges, John Sr. instilled in his son a love of art and literature and a compassion for human suffering, which would profoundly shape Tony's life and career. John Sr. would read to Tony and his siblings, sparking Tony's lifelong love of literature. Unfortunately, John Sr. died when Tony was just 10 years old. Growing up during the Great Depression and witnessing the effects of the presidency of Herbert Hoover left Tony with a lifelong affiliation with the Democratic Party. The hard times during the Great Depression ingrained in Tony a sense of empathy and resilience, qualities that would serve him well in his future career. Tony Bennett's musical influences began early in his life. He grew up listening to popular artists of the time, such as Al Jolson, Eddie Cantor, Judy Garland, and Bing Crosby. Jazz artists like Louis Armstrong, Jack Teagarden, and Joe Venuti also had a significant impact on him. His uncle Dick, a tap dancer in vaudeville, provided Tony with an early window into show business, while his uncle Frank, the Queensborough Library Commissioner, influenced his love for literature and art. By age 10, Tony was already singing and performed at the opening of the Triborough Bridge, standing next to Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, who patted him on the head. This early experience performing in front of a large audience was a defining moment for Tony, igniting his passion for singing. Drawing was another early passion of his, earning him the title of class caricaturist at PS 141. Tony anticipated a career in commercial art and began singing for money at age 13, performing as a singing waiter in several Italian restaurants around Queens. His time as a singing waiter was not only a way to earn money, but also a formative experience that helped him hone his performance skills and develop his stage presence. Tony attended New York School of Industrial Art, where he studied painting and music, and would later appreciate their emphasis on proper technique. However, he dropped out at age 16 to help support his family. He worked as a copy boy and runner for the Associated Press in Manhattan and took on several other low-skilled, low-paying jobs. Despite these challenges, Tony set his sights on a professional singing career, returning to performing as a singing waiter and participating in amateur nights across the city. His dedication paid off with a successful engagement at a Paramus, New Jersey nightclub. These early experiences in the workforce taught Tony the value of hard work and perseverance, qualities that would be essential in his music career. In November 1944, during the final stages of World War II, Tony Bennett was drafted into the United States Army. He underwent basic training at Fort Dix and Fort Robinson, becoming an infantry rifleman. Tony faced numerous challenges during his service, including conflicts with a sergeant who disliked him because of his Italian heritage. He was assigned to the 255th Infantry Regiment of the 63rd Infantry Division, a unit filling in for the heavy losses suffered in the Battle of the Bulge. Tony saw intense combat in France and Germany, narrowly escaping death multiple times. The horrors of war left a lasting impact on Tony, making him a lifelong pacifist. As March 1945 began, Tony joined the front line of what he would later describe as a front row seat in hell. The German army was being pushed back to its homeland, and Tony and his company saw bitter fighting in cold winter conditions, often hunkering down in foxholes as German 88mm guns fired on them. At the end of March, they crossed the Rhine and entered Germany, engaging in dangerous house-to-house, town after town fighting to clean out German soldiers. During his time in combat, Tony narrowly escaped death several times, experiences that would haunt him for the rest of his life. At the war's conclusion, Tony was involved in the liberation of the Kaufering concentration camp, a subcamp of Dachau near Landsberg, where some American prisoners of war from the 63rd Division had also been held. He later wrote in his autobiography that, "I saw things no human being should ever have to see." These experiences made Tony a staunch advocate for peace and shaped his worldview profoundly. After the war, Tony stayed in Germany as part of the occupying force and was assigned to an informal special services band unit that entertained nearby American forces. His dining with a black friend from high school during a time when the Army was still racially segregated led to his demotion and reassignment to Graves Registration Service duties. Despite this setback, Tony continued to sing with the 314th Army Special Services Band under the stage name Joe Barry. This period was crucial in keeping his musical dreams alive and allowed him to continue developing his skills. Upon his discharge from the Army in 1946, Tony Bennett studied at the American Theater Wing on the GI Bill, learning the bel canto singing discipline, which would keep his voice in excellent shape throughout his career. He developed an unusual approach to singing by imitating the style and phrasing of other musicians, such as the saxophone of Stan Getz and the piano of Art Tatum, helping him to improvise and interpret songs uniquely. These techniques set Tony apart from his contemporaries and contributed to his distinctive style. In 1949, Pearl Bailey recognized Tony Bennett's talent and asked him to open for her in Greenwich Village. Bob Hope, who was present at the show, took Tony on the road and shortened his name to Tony Bennett. In 1950, Tony signed with Columbia Records and released a demo of Boulevard of Broken Dreams. His first major hit came with Because of You, produced by Mitch Miller with an orchestral arrangement by Percy Faith. The song reached #1 on the pop charts in 1951 and stayed there for 10 weeks, selling over 1 million copies. This success marked the beginning of Tony's illustrious career. This success was followed by Cold, Cold Heart, a rendition of Hank Williams's country song, which introduced Williams and country music to a broader audience. Tony's recording of Blue Velvet also became very popular, attracting teenage fans at concerts. In 1953, Rags to Riches, an up-tempo big band number, topped the charts for 8 weeks. These early hits established Tony as a leading figure in the music industry. Tony Bennett's versatility and talent led to numerous hits in the 1950s, despite the changing dynamics of the music industry with the rise of rock and roll. He continued to enjoy success, placing 8 songs in the Billboard Top 40 during the latter part of the decade. In 1956, Tony hosted an NBC Saturday night television variety show, The Tony Bennett Show, and in 1959, he co-hosted Perry Presents alongside Teresa Brewer and J.P. Morgan. These television appearances helped Tony reach a wider audience and solidify his status as a household name. In the mid-1950s, Tony Bennett began to explore jazz influences in his music. His first long-playing album, Cloud 7, released in 1955, showcased his jazz leanings. In 1957, Ralph Sharon became Tony's pianist, arranger, and musical director, encouraging him to focus on his jazz inclinations. This collaboration resulted in the critically acclaimed album The Beat of My Heart, featuring prominent jazz musicians and emphasizing percussion. This album was a turning point in Tony's career, highlighting his versatility and ability to innovate within the jazz genre. Tony Bennett's collaboration with the Count Basie Orchestra produced 2 well-regarded albums, Basie Swings, Bennett Sings, 1958, and In Person, 1959. These albums solidified Tony's reputation as a jazz vocalist. In 1962, Tony staged a highly promoted concert at Carnegie Hall, featuring 44 songs and a stellar lineup of musicians. The concert was a significant success, further cementing his status as a star. The performance at Carnegie Hall was not just a concert, but a statement of Tony's artistry and ability to captivate audiences. That same year, Tony released "I Left My Heart in San Francisco," which became his signature song. Although the single only reached number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100, it spent nearly a year on various charts and won Grammy Awards for Record of the Year and Best Male Solo Vocal Performance. The accompanying album was a top 5 hit and achieved gold record status. The song's success marked a high point in Tony's career and is still associated with his name today. Throughout the early 1960s, Tony Bennett continued to release successful albums and singles, including "I Wanna Be Around," 1963, and "The Good Life." However, the British invasion and the rise of rock music in the mid-1960s led to a decline in the commercial success of traditional pop and jazz artists. Tony's last top 40 single was "If I Ruled the World" from the musical Pickwick in 1965. Despite these challenges, Tony's dedication to his craft never wavered, and he continued to perform and record. Tony Bennett was a firm believer in the civil rights movement and participated in the 1965 Selma to Montgomery marches. He performed in the Stars for Freedom rally the night before Martin Luther King Jr.'s "How Long, Not Long" speech. Tony's commitment to social justice extended to his refusal to perform in apartheid South Africa. His involvement in the civil rights movement was a reflection of his belief in equality and justice for all, values that he held dear throughout his life. Despite his artistic success, Tony faced significant challenges in the late 1960s and 1970s. Ralph Sharon and Tony parted ways in 1965, and Tony felt pressure to record contemporary rock songs, which he found unappealing. His attempt to adapt to the changing music scene resulted in the poorly received album "Tony Sings the Great Hits of Today" in 1970. By 1972, Tony had left Columbia Records and relocated to London, where he hosted a television show and continued to record, but with limited commercial success. These years were a testing period for Tony, filled with personal and professional struggles. Tony Bennett started his own record company, Improv, and recorded notable albums, including collaborations with jazz pianist Bill Evans. However, Improv lacked a major label distribution arrangement and eventually went out of business. By the late 1970s, Tony faced financial difficulties, a drug addiction, and the threat of losing his home to the IRS. Despite these hardships, Tony's passion for music and determination to overcome obstacles remained strong. In 1979, after a near-fatal cocaine overdose, Tony Bennett sought help from his sons Danny and Day. Danny, who had a head for business, became Tony's manager and helped him regain control of his finances and career. Tony moved back to New York City and began performing in colleges and small theaters, gradually rebuilding his reputation. This period marked the beginning of Tony's remarkable comeback. In 1986, Tony Bennett re-signed with Columbia Records, this time with creative control. His album, The Art of Excellence, marked his return to the charts. Danny's strategy to introduce Tony to younger audiences by booking him on shows like Late Night with David Letterman and Late Night with Conan O'Brien paid off. Tony's appearances on Sesame Street, The Simpsons, and MTV programs further endeared him to a new generation. These efforts revitalized Tony's career and brought his music to a broader audience. Tony continued to record acclaimed albums such as Astoria, Portrait of the Artist, 1990, Perfectly Frank, 1992, and Steppin' Out, 1993. His appearance on MTV Unplugged in 1994, featuring guest stars Elvis Costello and K.D. Lang, was a significant success. The resulting album won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year and went platinum. This period of renewed success reaffirmed Tony's place in the music industry and highlighted his timeless appeal. By the end of the 1990s, Tony Bennett's assets were worth $15 to $20 million, and he continued to perform 100 shows a year. His live performances often featured him singing one song without a microphone, showcasing his vocal projection skills. Tony's contributions to music and his ability to connect with audiences across generations earned him widespread acclaim. His determination and resilience during this period were inspiring, showing that talent and hard work could overcome any obstacle. In 2006, Tony Bennett celebrated his 80th birthday with the release of Duets, an American classic, which reached his highest chart position ever and won a Grammy Award. He continued to perform and record, collaborating with artists like Billy Joel, Lady Gaga, and Amy Winehouse. Tony's album, Duets 2, released in 2011, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making him the oldest living artist to achieve this feat. These collaborations showcase Tony's versatility and ability to remain relevant in the ever-changing music industry. Throughout his later years, Tony Bennett received numerous accolades, including the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a Kennedy Center honor, and the National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters Award. His autobiography, The Good Life, was published in 1998, and his paintings were exhibited in galleries worldwide. Tony's dedication to both his music and art was evident, and his influence extended beyond the realm of music. Tony's final album, Love for Sale, a collaboration with Lady Gaga, was released in 2021. The album received favorable reviews and debuted at #8 on the Billboard 200. Tony's final live performances were in August 2021, marking the end of an illustrious career. Despite his retirement, Tony's legacy continues to inspire generations of musicians and fans. His dedication to his craft, ability to adapt to changing musical landscapes, and commitment to social justice have left an indelible mark on the world of music. In addition to his illustrious music career, Tony Bennett also had a passion for painting, which he pursued under his real name, Anthony Benedetto. His childhood interest in drawing and painting grew into a serious pursuit, and he received professional training throughout his life. Tony sketched or painted every day, often capturing views from hotel windows while on tour. His dedication to his art was as profound as his dedication to music. Tony's work was exhibited in numerous galleries around the world, and he was chosen as the official artist for the 2001 Kentucky Derby. He was also commissioned by the United Nations to create 2 paintings, including one for its 50th anniversary. His painting, Homage to Hockney, created for his friend David Hockney, is on permanent display at the Butler Institute of American Art in Youngstown, Ohio. Another notable work, Boy on Sailboat, Sydney Bay, is in the permanent collection at the National Arts Club on Gramercy Park in New York City, while his Central Park is housed at the Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington, D.C. Tony's paintings and drawings have been featured in Art News and other magazines, and some of his works have sold for as much as $80,000 apiece. Many of his works were published in the art book Tony Bennett, What My Heart Has Seen in 1996. In 2007, another book involving his paintings, Tony Bennett in the Studio, A Life of Art and Music, became a bestseller among art books. Tony's success as a painter was a testament to his multifaceted talent and his ability to excel in various creative fields. Tony Bennett's daughters, Johanna and Antonia Bennett, have spoken out about their ongoing legal battle concerning their father's estate. They have filed a lawsuit against their brothers, D'Andrea Danny Bennett and Deagle Day Bennett, as well as the late singer's widow Susan Benedetto. The daughters claim that Danny, who was the trustee of the estate, has not been transparent about the management of their father's assets and has failed to disclose certain information. In a statement to dailymail.com, Johanna and Antonia expressed their frustration with the lack of transparency and the numerous unanswered questions they have about the estate's dealings. Their primary goal is to uncover the truth about the management of the estate, including any deals that were made and the distribution of proceeds to the family trust. The daughters also emphasized that their father, Tony Bennett, would have wanted his children to remain united and honor his wishes regarding his estate without resorting to legal action. This statement suggests that the sisters are seeking a fair and amicable resolution to the dispute, while also upholding their father's legacy. Tony Bennett's daughters, Johanna and Antonia, from his second marriage to Sandra Grant, are embroiled in a legal battle over their father's estate. Their eldest brother, Danny Bennett, from Bennett's first marriage, became the sole trustee of the estate upon their father's death in July 2023. The daughters claim they are entitled to 50% of the family trust, which includes personal belongings, residual assets, income streams, copyrights, and royalties. Their lawsuit accuses Danny of mishandling the estate's assets and failing to disclose vital information to them, despite their repeated requests. They argue that their inquiries are reasonable and within their rights as beneficiaries of the estate. The sisters have expressed their frustration with their brother's lack of transparency and his refusal to provide them with the information they seek. They maintain that their father intended for all his children to share equally in his estate, as outlined in the family trust. The tensions within the Bennett family over the estate have escalated, with Johanna Bennett openly stating that she no longer has a relationship with her brother Danny and his wife Susan. The lawsuit filed by the sisters provides more insight into the dispute. The legal documents reveal that the family trust, created in 1994, was amended multiple times by Tony Bennett prior to October 19, 2016. It's important to note that this trust was funded before Bennett's passing, indicating that it holds a significant portion of his assets. Johanna and Antonia express concerns about the lack of transparency regarding the estate's value, particularly questioning the proceeds from the sale of Bennett's music catalog and image rights to Iconoclast, a brand development firm. They also seek a detailed accounting of their father's assets at the time of his death. The lawsuit highlights a stark discrepancy between Tony Bennett's estimated earnings and the reported value of his gross estate. The sisters allege that their father earned over $100 million from live performances alone during the last 15 years of his career, a period that included highly successful concert series with Lady Gaga. However, they claim to have been informed that the gross estate is valued at less than $7 million, raising questions about the accuracy of this assessment and the potential mishandling of assets. The lawsuit filed by Tony Bennett's daughters further alleges that their brother Danny Bennett received loans totaling $1,200,000 from their father in 2020. The circumstances surrounding these loans and the authority under which they were granted remain unclear. In 2020, Danny was acting as Tony Bennett's attorney-in-fact due to his father's Alzheimer's diagnosis. Additionally, he had a long-standing professional relationship with his father, serving as his manager for over 4 decades through his company, RPM Music Productions, Inc. During a meeting with Danny and his legal counsel in March, he asserted that the sale of Tony Bennett's music catalog and image rights to Iconoclast was done to benefit their father financially. However, the daughters found this explanation insufficient and demanded documentation regarding all financial transactions from the onset of their father's illness until his death. The lawsuit further highlights Danny's multiple roles and responsibilities related to their father's assets, raising concerns about potential conflicts of interest. The sisters claim that Danny has engaged in various transactions where his personal, business, and fiduciary obligations overlap, potentially compromising his impartiality as trustee. The sisters assert that they have repeatedly requested basic information about their father's estate but have been met with resistance and a lack of transparency. They allege that Danny has obtained personal benefits for himself and his company through various transactions, including the sale of memorabilia, raising questions about his motivations and actions as trustee. The lawsuit filed by Tony Bennett's daughters further reveals their concerns regarding the sale and consignment of their late father's memorabilia and personal property. The sisters allege that these transactions were conducted on behalf of Tony Bennett, Benedetto Arts, LLC, and the family trust, but their brother Danny has failed to provide a full accounting of the proceeds. The sisters specifically highlight the sale of a portion of their father's music catalog, name, image, and likeness rights to Iconoclast in March of the same year. They claim they were not consulted about this decision and were not informed about the specifics of the deal, including the sale price and the distribution of the proceeds. In the lawsuit, they express their concerns that the lack of transparency has prevented them from assessing the legitimacy and fairness of the sale. They allege that Danny and his legal team have repeatedly refused to provide comprehensive details about this and other transactions, leaving them with more questions than answers about the management of their father's assets. The sisters are requesting the court to order a full inventory and accounting of all assets held by the family trust, including those sold to Iconoclast. They demand a detailed record of all financial transactions, including taxes, disbursements, and expenses. Their ultimate goal is to ensure that the estate is managed in accordance with the terms of the family trust, and that they receive their rightful share of the inheritance. The deal with Iconoclast involved more than just the acquisition of Tony Bennett's music catalog and likeness rights. It also encompassed various Bennett-branded ventures, such as a restaurant in New York City, a watch brand, and a documentary on Paramount Plus about Bennett's collaboration with Lady Gaga. This multifaceted agreement aimed to extend Bennett's legacy beyond his music career, creating a lasting brand that would continue to resonate with fans and generate income. Olivier Chastain, the founder of Iconoclast, expressed his admiration for Bennett's talent and character, describing him as a giant in the entertainment industry. He emphasized the honor of being entrusted with the responsibility of safeguarding Bennett's legacy. Danny Bennett, Tony Bennett's son and manager, echoed this sentiment, affirming that his approach had always been to manage his father's career as a legacy, a tradition that Iconoclast would continue. Despite the positive statements made at the time of the deal, the lack of transparency surrounding its financial details has become a point of contention for Bennett's daughters. Their lawsuit aims to shed light on the specifics of the agreement and ensure a fair distribution of proceeds among all beneficiaries. Hours after the news of Tony Bennett's passing at 96 years old broke, his wife Susan Benedetto and eldest son Danny expressed their gratitude to fans, friends, and colleagues through a heartfelt Instagram statement. The message highlighted Bennett's enduring passion for music, recalling his dedication to performing and bringing joy to his audience throughout his impressive career, spanning from his humble beginnings as a singing waiter in Queens to his final performances at Radio City Music Hall in 2021. The news of Bennett's death was confirmed by his publicist to the Associated Press, noting that he died in New York. While the cause of death was not immediately disclosed, Bennett had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016. His team also shared a touching tribute on social media, referencing his first #1 hit, "Because of You," as a poignant farewell. Tony Bennett, whose real name was Anthony Dominic Benedetto, left behind a remarkable legacy, having won over 18 Grammy Awards in his extensive career. He was only a few days shy of his 97th birthday when he passed. Besides his wife, Susan Benedetto, whom he married in 2007, Bennett is survived by 4 children from his previous marriages. Bennett's first marriage was to Patricia Beach in 1952, the same year he released his debut album, Because of You. The couple had 2 sons, Danny and Day, born in 1952 and 1955, respectively. Their marriage lasted nearly 2 decades before they separated in the 1960s and ultimately divorced in 1971. This marked the end of Bennett's first chapter in marriage and family life, but it was far from the end of his musical journey. Following his divorce from Patricia Beach, Tony Bennett found love again with Sandra Grant, whom he married in 1971. This second marriage brought 2 daughters into his life, Joanna and Antonia, born in 1970 and 1974, respectively. However, this relationship also faced challenges, leading to their separation in 1979. Despite the separation, the couple did not officially finalize their divorce until 2007, a testament to the complexities of their relationship. In a turn of events, Bennett's divorce from Grant paved the way for his third marriage, this time to Susan Benedetto, in 2007. This union would prove to be his longest and most enduring, lasting until his passing in 2023. Benedetto, who shared a deep love for music with Bennett, became an integral part of his life and career, supporting him both personally and professionally. The news of Bennett's death brought an outpouring of grief and tributes from fans, fellow musicians, and celebrities around the world. Carrie Underwood, a country music star, shared a heartfelt message on social media, praising Bennett as the epitome of a gentleman with a God-given one-of-a-kind voice. She expressed her gratitude for the opportunity to have shared the stage with him, acknowledging the profound impact he had on her career and life. Reba McEntire also gushed over the late singer via social media, writing, "I had the pleasure of being around at Tony Bennett twice in my career, both times at Christmas. He was a gentleman and a music icon, and his voice will live on for years to come. Rest in peace, Tony.